Hello, and welcome to the BASN Academy Student News. I'm Trey Archambault.
And I'm Gagosz.
Coming up on today's top stories, 60 are wounded from a ferry crash in New York. Vice President Joe Biden just kicked off a series of meetings about gun control last night. And does soda cause depression? All here today at the BASN Academy Student News.
First, Trey, what's going on here at BASN?
The only January STEM meeting will be today after school. Also, don't forget that applications for the Big Y Scholarship can be found in guidance and are due the 1st of February.
Moving into national news, the national flu epidemic is getting worse by the day. On Wednesday, Boston, with a population of at least 600,000, declared a public health emergency after the virus killed more than a dozen people. At least 3 more states, Montana, South Dakota, and Arizona, are now reporting widespread flu, bringing the total to 44 states. And the CDC says the percentage of people going to the hospital for treatment of flu symptoms has doubled in the past month. The emergency in Boston was declared after confirmed cases of flu reached 700. There were just 70 at this time last year. Across the state, 18 patients have died. In the last 2 weeks alone, we've doubled our number, said Dr. Barbara Fair, the executive director of the Boston Public Health Commission. So, if we continue at this rate to see new cases, we'll have an explosion of flu in the city of Boston. We really need to get ahead of it at this point in time.
Justices indicated yesterday that the dangers of drunken driving don't trump the Fourth Amendment, peppering lawyers from the state of Missouri with objections to their request that the Supreme Court allow law enforcement to order blood tests for DUI suspects without consent. The case, Missouri v. McNeely, is seen as a landmark that could clear up almost 50 years of uncertainty over the constitutionality of blood tests that are conducted without a warrant. Legal scholars say it could rewrite drunken driving laws in all 50 states. The case hinges on how you interpret a 1966 opinion by then Chief Justice William Brennan, who wrote the law enforcement should get a warrant before taking blood draw without the suspect's consent, except in a very limited circumstance that rise to an emergency. Missouri wants the court to declare that the dissipation of alcohol in the bloodstream is, on its face, an emergency, allowing officers to get a blood test immediately and without a warrant.
One by one, the passengers shuffled towards the exits, bags in hand, music in their ears, gathering in a neat crowd to step off their New Jersey commuter ferry and into the frosty lower Manhattan morning. The boat approached its dock just before 8:45 a.m. yesterday morning. Right on time, or perhaps a hair too early, suddenly the vessel appeared to hit a wall. In all, officials said nearly 60 of the more than 300 passengers aboard the ferry were injured as the boat struck 2 slips at the pier. 2 people were crucially injured, including one man who hit his head after falling down the steps, and 9 were being treated for serious wounds. The cause of yesterday's accident was not immediately clear, though officials said the ferry had been traveling at over 10 miles per hour just before the crash, well above the pace of its typical crawl into the dock.
Due to the recent shooting massacre in Sandy Hook Elementary School last month and shootings all across the nation, Congress is debating on stricter gun laws. Here is Zach Grunfeld with further details and your thoughts.
Hi, Zach Grunfeld here. Vice President Joe Biden said yesterday that the White House is determined to act quickly to curb gun violence and will explore all avenues, including executive orders that would not require approval by Congress, to try to prevent incidents like last month's massacre at Sandy Hook. Kicking off a series of meetings on gun violence, Biden said the administration would work with gun control advocates and gun rights supporters to build a consensus on restrictions, but he made clear that President Barack Obama is prepared to act on his own if necessary. I'm here with Hunter Graves to ask him his opinion on the newer gun control restrictions that Congress is debating.
All right, my personal opinion is they will not work. They never have. This does not do anything to prevent anything. The first assault weapons ban was in 1994. That did not prevent the Columbine shooting in 1997. That expired. They have proven, the CDC has proven that the assault weapons ban does not work. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. When guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. That is all.
I think they should limit some guns, assault weapons, and hunting rifles should be kept legalized, and hunting, things for hunting, but like M16s and other stuff like that should not be legalized.
We know that sugary sodas aren't good for our bodies. Now, it turns out that they may not be good for our minds either. A new study of more than 260,000 people have found a link between sweetened soft drinks and depression, and diet sodas may be making matters worse. Americans drink far more soda than people in any other country, as much as 170 liters per person per year. But the impact of this study isn't limited to the United States. Sweetened beverages, such as coffee and tea, are commonly consumed worldwide and have important physical and may have important mental health consequences. Study author Dr. Heigl Chen, an investigator at the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, said. The study, which was released on Tuesday and will be presented at the American Academy of Neurology's annual meeting in March, involved 263,925 people between the ages of 50 and 71. Researchers tracked their consumption of beverages like soda, tea, coffee, and other soft drinks between 1995 and 1986, and then 10 years later asked them if they had been diagnosed with depression since the year 2000. More than 11,300 of them had.
Moving into world news, Syrian opposition fighters Wednesday released 48 Iranians captured in August in exchange for freeing at least 2,130 detainees held by President Bashar al-Assad's government, in the largest prisoner swap of the country's civil war, officials said. Meanwhile, Lakhdar Brahimi, the special envoy to Syria for the United Nations and Arab League, denounced the peace plan Assad unveiled this week as sectarian and one-sided, offering little hope that a diplomatic solution to the country's violence will be found anytime soon. The Iranians were let go in Douma, a suburb of Damascus, the Syrian capital, as government began to move its detainees, including women and children, to buses for their release, Iranian and Turkish state media reported. Among the government's prisoners were Turkish nationals, according to Turkey's official news agency.
Japan's defense ministry says it is seeking more funds for military spending, a day after news the government would boost the defense budget for the first time in 10 years. The ministry is asking for 180.5 billion yen, which is equal to $2.1 billion, some of which an official said would be spent on missile interceptors and fighter jets. The move comes with Japan embroiled in a territorial role with China. It also follows North Korea's recent successful long-range rocket launch. The Defense Ministry spokesman said the funds were needed to prepare for the changing security environment surrounding Japan. Official says the increase would be used for research into a new radar system and maintenance costs for military aircraft. I'm Alexa Gagosz.
And I'm Trey Archambault.
That's all for today, for Thursday, January 10th.
Please join us again tomorrow during lunch for the most reliable and up-to-date news.
And remember that you can watch us online at youtube.com/BA Student News.